Hello, and welcome. This is Daniel Branco. I'm the community host of Sciencepreneur, and today I'll be talking with Fernanda Staquicini. Fernanda is the Director of Research and Development for Embrace Therapeutics. Let me just add her here.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Daniel.
Oh, hi, Fernanda. Good to see you. Good to see
Good
you
to see you.
again.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for coming. And as we discussed prior to this conversation, the Sciencepreneur Initiative is meant to uh, support scientists who are interested in launching companies or joining startups. In the So we have these regular conversations with scientists, entrepreneurs in science. The idea is to promote backed science uh, companies and to foster the growth of those companies. And it's very nice to have you here. I think you have such a great experience, like growing and developing research in academia for a long time. You're now working as director of research and development at Embrace, which is a company that directly uses the research that you
Yeah.
developed, right? So, if you could share a little bit with us about your journey as a scientist who uh, moved to the business side, or did you consider that you moved completely, or do you see yourself like a more like a hybrid of
Mm.
academic and um, someone who runs and co-runs a startup? How do you see yourself at this point?
Now, at this point, I think after spending 2 years with Embrace, I know this is what I want to do. I have the biggest appreciation for university and the science that we do at university. I mean, just speaking from my background, I was raised as a scientist inside a university. I was a faculty for several years in three different institutions in the U.S. Starting at MD Anderson in Houston, Texas. From there, I was a faculty again at UNM Cancer Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Then we transferred to New Jersey, where I am right now. At Rutgers, I was also a faculty at Rutgers, had my own money, had my own space, had my own people. I checked every box. And then there was the opportunity to join Embrace. And I've been with Embrace for just over 2 years now. Starting from absolutely nothing, except the science, because the science was something that was brewing for a while inside university. That's something that we published together for a few years. But then there was the opportunity to develop the science into something that was bigger than what we had at university. And that is what we're doing with Embrace. And after spending this time with Embrace, doing the science that I know how to do with the startup that we started, I don't see myself going back to the university. I have the deepest appreciation for university and everything that we do at the university. I'll probably always keep some sort of connection with the university because that's where talent comes from. But in terms of how I see developing the science um, at the startup level that we are right now, this is where I want to stay. Yeah.
Very interesting. And you say so as someone who, as you mentioned, you had your own money, like you had your own RO1, right? I
I
think
did,
that's
yeah. I checked
yeah.
every box, yeah.
You checked every box. So why is it? How do you feel it's different? My perspective is that academia can be safer, perhaps, than running a company or being part of a startup, particularly because you're never 100% sure of what the results are going to show, right?
Yeah.
So companies fail, and that's a scary thought. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So I think that's for the longest time. Again, what I knew before Embrace was how to be a scientist in the academic setting. I knew how to be a professor. I knew how to write grants. I participated in study sections for the NIH, reviewing grants for them. So I knew everything about being a scientist inside the university and everything that comes with it, which is teaching, making sure the next generation of scientists is exposed to the best possible training they can have. And there is a lot of safety in it, absolutely. So you have your salary every month. You'll be fine unless there's something extremely serious. You'll be okay, especially for foreigners. Having that kind of safety, job safety, is extremely important. And on the flip side, I start up, which literally it was just me and my CEO for a whole year. It is very risky. You don't know what's going to happen once this time closes and you need to finance your startup for the next phase. Startups fail a lot. If not, most of them will fail. But then at the same time, there is this excitement, which is the process of always learning. And I think scientists can relate. um, you're always exposed to something new. You want to learn. This is what science is. You're making new discoveries, and all kinds of discoveries. And as part of I think what I wanted to do, for my career and my personal life, was to always continue to grow, and be exposed to new things. And I saw that, with Embrace, and I saw that I could learn more and do more, if I joined a startup, basically built a startup, which was the case for Embrace. And that for me was, the turning point. I just wanted to make sure I had everything I could, and I've done everything I could, to make myself a better scientist, and to constantly being exposed to, what is new. And the startup could give me that in a very fast pace. Not that university doesn't. There's always something new to learn, but there's always a process. Like, you just go through the phases. You go from assistant to associate to professor. You get grants, you train people, which is totally fine. But then there is the excitement, which comes with something, like a startup. And that for me was the turning point. I was like, this is what I want to do. Even if you risk, perhaps in a year, having, a little bit of trouble with what you're doing. You never know. There is uncertainties, there is stress, there is a lot of work, but there is also, a lot of fun doing, what we do now.
But yeah, coming like let's discuss the fun part. You mentioned that for a year it was only you and the CEO, right?
Yeah,
Does
I
that mean
started a little over than a year. Yeah.
okay? But does that mean you didn't have a lab?
No,
Or
we did have a lab. I was doing everything,
okay,
literally everything. If I had to clean the floor, I cleaned the floor. If I had to clean the autoclave, I actually cleaned the autoclave every 2 weeks. FedEx shipments. Actually, the most sophisticated experiments, to in vivo work, to using the most sophisticated microscope, to cleaning the floor and making coffee. Yeah, everything. We worked a lot with vendors as well. So
mhm,
it wasn't just me doing experiments on the bench, which I did, and I still do. But there was always a lot of, interaction with vendors. So a lot of the work that we had to do for that period, was done in partnership with vendors. So we contracted the service for somebody to use this technology to do this for us, or something like that. But all the preclinical work or non-clinical work, including in vivo work, I did it myself. Yeah.
nice, interesting. So okay, so you were in academia, and then you met. I'm guessing you met the CEO. You realized you could start a company. And then did you move right away, or did you guys raise the fundings before so you had the money to at least build the lab, or how did you start like a
It was a process. So I knew Ethan, our CEO, for previous interactions. The connection actually came. So Ethan, it's good friends with my bosses, Renata Pasqualini and Wadi Arab. And they were my mentors for, since MD Anderson. And I've been following them my entire career, basically, since my postdoc with them. They helped me getting my faculty positions. They helped me getting my grants. So there was a lot of interaction between me, Wadi, and Renata. And Renata and Wadi are founders of Embrace, along with Isan. Isan is the CEO. Renata and Wadi continue to be founders. Three of them founders, and Isan is the founder and CEO. And then I was, the once they started talking about what to do with Embrace, what science we were going to pursue, that's when it came to me, because we wanted to do something with antibodies, or ADCs, antibody drug conjugates, and I was part of the development of a platform that was very encouraging and promising to develop new antibodies against targets in cancer. So there was a period where Easton was responsible for the first funding phase. Once we had that money, there was a lot of informal interactions until it was obviously time for us to make a decision, because we wanted to get moving, especially with bench work and making Embrace official. And that's when I decided that that was time. So we made a few decisions. I still had my R01, so that my R01 was in the lab, but transferred to Renata Pasqualini, which is now the PI of the grant. And I moved full time to work with Ethan and literally set up Embrace, setting up the lab. We were granted access to an incubator space inside Bristol Myers here in Summit, and I basically set up the entire lab in the incubator, and now we are where we are.
interesting? Okay, so that's very interesting. I think that I was trying to, and I'm still trying, like, to understand. There are many paths to like making this transition, right? And it seems like having the right team, even if it's two people only, it's the that would be the first step, right? You need
Yeah,
like
yeah. A lot of people say, HR is the most important part of a company. It is literally about the people. If you have the right people, not only in the beginning, because little it goes from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16. And if you're not careful, it's the culture of the company is really important. And for startups, as small as we are or we were, everybody has to do a little bit of everything.
right.
You can't just sit behind your desk and just wait for things to happen, because they won't. You actually have to do stuff, and a lot of stuff that you have no idea you even could do it, but you get stuff done. So there is a mentality that comes with starting something from zero like this, and a lot of it, it's about the people you hire and the people you work with. You don't even have to hire everybody, but the vendors you work with, the partnerships that you establish, but most importantly, who will be part of the company, particularly in the very beginning, because you basically set up the culture, and in moving forward, you want to make sure that the culture it stays the same, and that's where it is exactly the most important part of the company. It is about the people you have working with you.
In your case, you already knew the CEO is son, right? But if you didn't, do you think at some point would you try to start that yourself, like you go after like a business person? Because the way I the way I see it, like scientists who develop a great science, they usually never had the time to learn about business and starting a company, right? Because they're those are two very different focuses, like in life. So one thing that we attempt to do here at Sciencepreneur is sometimes to make that matching, like to connect a scientific idea, the science, the scientists, with a business person, with an entrepreneurial, like an entrepreneur. And do you think that you'd have gone that route, like going after someone at some point?
No, I absolutely agree. Scientists know absolutely nothing about business. I don't. I still don't. I do. You get better because you kind of interact with people, but I don't see myself as a scientist putting myself in that position of starting something to with my science. I've seen it happening. I was exposed throughout my entire training, Renata Pascolini and Wadi Arab, they were always involved in this startup, translation of the science into something meaningful for patients. That was always the goal with the lab. And we, as trainees in their lab, we were always exposed to that. So I've seen, things happening, different companies starting here and there, some fail, some do well. But I never saw myself, I never had that mentality of, this is my science. I think this is great. Let me go after some sort of business arrangement to make this happen. No, the
Mhm.
way it happened, I think was probably the only way it could happen to me.
Okay.
Thinking back now, yeah.
Yeah, so but I think that that's a good message, like for potential future entrepreneurs in science who are not necessarily scientists, that they perhaps might feel encouraged to reach out to scientists and try to forge those relationships, because eventually, who knows what might happen, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, there's a lot of good science, and scientists are phenomenal at what they do. They are very passionate about what they do. Um, what I like to say is like not every science will be, turning to a drug. Every science
suitable
is
for a
important.
company.
Absolutely, every science is important. That being the science that you do to teach your student how to do science, from the science that will result into a drug that is helping patients. Every single one of them, it's important. Absolutely, every single one of them will become something that will be eventually in patients or back to society. No, there's different ways of doing it, but they are all important. But there is this gap, and I think it comes from training. You're trained as a scientist, you know how to do science, you're passionate about your science, and that's what you see. But we very rarely will be exposed to anything that is not, science related, much less business, finances for that matter. So yeah, so it, sometimes it's just serendipity. You just, you meet a person,
Yeah.
and you feel like, this is a good combination. But I would never even try to adventure myself into the business side, because I know this is not what I can do best. Even though I'm very excited about being exposed, learning, seeing it happening is fantastic. But then you have to. I have the right people to do that for me, and they have me to push forward the science that we need for the company to be successful as well. So it's a good partnership. Um, when it happened the way it happened with us and Embrace, fantastic. But just to stick your neck out there and see what you find. Yeah.
Yeah. Serendipity, I think it's like most things in life, it plays such a big role. Like you, it's funny how sometimes you just have to trust life to take us
Yeah.
what to where we should be in
And then
sense.
be ready to make the jump. Just if you see the opportunity. And yes, you think about it a bit. Hey, it's risky. Maybe in 2 years I'll be out of job. Whatever. but it may just go to someone else. Um,
Right.
so
And I think that that decision, on whether to take the leap or not, which because it's a leap of faith, right? Like you never
it
know
is.
exactly what's going to happen. And I think a lot of it comes with the rewards you expect from the transition, the transitions. So in my case, for example, I was a scientist and I was doing my postdoc. And when I finished my postdoc, I had an offer to start as faculty at the Memórias Sloan Kettering, and it was a dual position, Memórias Sloan Kettering and Cornell University so I was going to be a faculty of neuroradiology because my research was in brain mapping, and but I was very entrepreneurial. Like I had the business side much more like it was like born inside of me. Like I needed to do something. Like I was very throughout my entire career. I had like a dual life as a scientist and an entrepreneur, and that's when I decided to do an MBA. And when I went to business school, I had like a it was such a clash of values because in academia, it's your reward is your not for everyone, but for many times it's more like your name, the name that you're building. It's very ego driven, I think.
Mm,
Because you become like it is your science, and like your impact is your
yeah.
science, and it's not about money in academia. It's a lot about your name, your person, your persona. Whereas in the business world, it's a lot less about who you are, and it's a lot about the money that you make, and success is measured by money. So if you and that's pretty much, and that's very true. Like when you run a company or you're part of a company, you have investors. You have to give them like a return on their investment. So it's so easy to make that related to money. The metric of success becomes much more tangible. I think much more it becomes a number rather than a history of your person as a scientist. So I'm curious to learn what was your motivation in doing that transition. What do you see as the reward of what Amy Brace could become as a company and for you personally?
Um, the motivation, and I speak very honestly and openly. The motivation had always been the science that I would be able to pursue in a different way. Um, the finances, obviously, they have a big impact. So there's the paycheck, or even the opportunity that you have, so that you have a lot more freedom in terms of budget, to pursue the science you want to pursue, to make it move faster and more efficiently. So yeah, finances absolutely completely different. And you have more freedom to hire the right people you want in your company working with you. You can try to retain them with better paychecks. But for me, I actually don't. It's hard for a scientist to even understand, from our perspective as academic scientists, what's the size of the financial impact out there, out of the university. At least for me, it was because I had no training in such things. For me, it was my training was science, and that's about it. But the pursuit of the science that I felt could move forward and perhaps help somebody in the future, that being a long term or short term. That was the main driver. And then, of course, once you're exposed to this other side of science, which is more freedom, higher budget, so you get excited with the prospect of doing what you like, um, with a much larger budget that provides you with whatever you need to pursue things the way you feel they should be pursued in the first place. And then, of course, that results in things moving a lot faster, and you getting results a lot faster as well. I thought about, after being in on this side, I thought about having some training in, even pursuing an MBA or something. Um, and I think I might just stay with my scientific training, and learn on the job. I feel like just being exposed to so much more has given me a lot more in terms of advancing myself, not only now as a scientist, but also somebody who is building a company like Embrace.
Right. Yeah, so it's a lot about the freedom, I think,
It
in like
is. It
the
is.
freedom to which comes with budget, right?
Comes with budget, yes. And if you have ways of doing things faster, more efficiently, hiring and retaining people who are bright and can do things well, yeah, well, why not? Things will move, and you do need to move fast. You do have timelines that you want to pursue, and you have people watching and investing in your science, so you want to make sure you do the best you can. And you can only do the best you can if you have the right people working with you, and if you have a budget that supports it. So yeah, there is this side. It's the freedom and the ability to hire and retain the people that will take you where you need to go.
Right. And you mentioned something that was like a very interesting, which is you considered to have some training in business, but decided to learn on the job, which is like one of the best ways to
Yeah.
learn. The one thing, and I did that myself, even though I had my MBA. Whenever you start a company in an industry, whatever it is, it's you have to learn everything about that specific space, the dynamics of that specific industry. Um, and one thing that I found very valuable was to connect with other entrepreneurs in the same space and share experiences. So there might be a way for you to learn on the job, but not necessarily by yourself, because there is a lot of
I see it.
mistakes
Yeah, yeah,
that you
absolutely.
cannot avoid by just learning from others' experiences, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and being in this initial phase of a startup, you actually have to do everything, literally. There's a lot of Google searches that you have to do, so in order to, it is a term that you don't know what it
Now
is.
you can ask GPT chat, chat GPT.
Yeah, so there is a lot of language that you don't know, and there's Google searches and stuff. Let me see what this is. I don't know exactly what this is, but let me check. And that's the definition of learning on the job, I guess. And that's pretty much how I decided to approach this. And yeah, it's been, sometimes you just need to be the little fly on the wall, watching a meeting, and seeing how people interact, what kind of decisions they make, and what kind of topics they discuss, what is important, what is not so important. So yeah, that's my current approach to learning a little bit more about business.
Okay, awesome. Very nice. Well, Fernanda, if you we are approaching like the end of this conversation. It's very nice. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, your journey. We want to like keep watching and uh, we're wishing the best for Embrace, and we're hoping that it's gonna be like a super impactful, and you're gonna be able to. So the idea for Embrace is to develop antibody based drugs for cancer.
For oncology,
That's the
yeah.
same
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
all types. Is that a specific like a segment or
So we're, yeah, so Embrace is, it's looking for, so the whole, idea is to develop ADCs, which is antibody drug conjugates, which is an antibody based therapy for cancer. Um, so our cell point is basically we're looking for new targets in oncology and cancer that have not been explored before. And that's kind of where the power of the technology comes in, because everything that we do favors the discovery of new targets that we want to use to develop new antibodies to treat cancer. So depending on what we find, you may go to specific kinds of cancers. A lot of those targets will be pan cancer. Basically, they're expressed in different types of cancer, so we can try to go and help as many different types of patients as possible. Right now, we're focusing on lung cancer and breast cancer
Mhm.
for the first program, and then the second program will most likely be focused on prostate cancer. And we might be able to try to do something in breast cancer as well.
My understanding is that the science you developed facilitates finding those antibodies, right?
Yeah, it's basically the platform was developed to so that we can find the perfect antibody target pair. So the target is expressed on the cancer cell. The antibody will carry something that will find the cancer cell and kill it. So the whole platform design was made in a way that we find the best pair antibody target, and then use it to develop the drug. Yeah.
And as far as I understand about this space, which is really not a lot, there is a whole challenge related to delivery, depending on the tissue that you're using
Yes.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole purpose of targeted therapies, which is where we are, is to make sure you deliver whatever you're trying to deliver to the cancer only without compromising health tissue, which it gives you the side effects, right?
Which,
The toxicity issues with cancer therapies and all that. So yeah, so the whole there is always the risk that you hit the health tissue, and it happens to probably every single drug out there. But as technology improves, the hope is that you can find a target that will only or mostly be expressed in the cancer cell. So once you hit it with something to kill the cancer cells, you're not, compromising any healthy tissue on the way. So that's the whole purpose of targeted therapies in cancer for many years, and will always be the focus, just because that would be the best way to try to help patients.
nice, very nice. Well, once again, wishing you all the best with a company with a venture and adventure, right?
Absolutely, it was my pleasure. This is all new to me, so again, it's a fantastic experience. We have a lot to share. So yeah, let's move with whatever we're doing, and learning as we go.
Okay. All right. And if you had like any word to say to potential sciencepreneurs or scientists who are in academia, I think you already told us a lot, but if you had any advice to give them or
Um, trust your feelings. I think for me, I knew when was the right time. So and there's always like that little, that thought in the back of your mind that tells you there is something there that you want to explore. Maybe you just know you're just anxious about it. There's job security, there's this, there's that, but there's always there, and you know when it is. So for me, I knew when was the time for me to make the move, and I do not regret a single second of it. It was a risk, yes, and it still is. And if I have to go back and find a regular job, I'll call it a regular job. I will. But this time that I put into building Embrace along with the team that we have, the learning that I have from this time will always be with me, and I wouldn't have it otherwise. right? So that you just, just if you feel like it is right for you, even if you're not sure, give it very strong consideration, because chances are, you'll find your home there, and be able to contribute the way you feel like you should be contributing to society.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Thanks very much,
Well,
Fernanda.
thank you so
And
much, and yeah, good luck, everyone.
yeah, and we hope to have you back in the future and to share the progress.
Oh
And
yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that would be something. Where we are now is a 2 years startup. So things happen fast. So you might as well just have a
do
lot of things
do
to share
they
here.
even like in a if drug discovery is always a lengthy process, right?
Ah, yes, and very expensive. But we like to say that we move fast. So you never know.
Who knows? So we'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.